Above the endless forests, where the crowns of century-old oaks brushed against a heavy, leaden sky, a half-darkness had reigned for ages. Here, in the river lands between the Dnieper and the Fokhof, the world felt like a living, breathing, and terrible thing. Every stream had its own voice, every hill its unseen master, and the thunder that split the heavens was no mere weather, it was the furious cry of Perun, hurling golden arrows at the serpent coiled among the roots of the world tree. People did not live in this world as its masters, but as a small part of a great cycle of blood, earth, and fear. Their lives were governed by the harsh rhythms of nature, the spring awakening of the sap, the summer labor in the fields, and the long, deathly cold winter, when beyond the threshold of the house roamed the Navii, the shadows of ancestors and spirits of frost. On sacred grounds encircled by deep ditches, idols stood. Severe faces carved from seasoned oak, their eyes inlaid with silver, gazing into eternity and demanding tribute, the finest share of the harvest, or the warm blood of a sacrificial calf, so that the sun would not be extinguished and the earth would not cease to bear fruit. But time, like the waters of a great river, wore ceaselessly at the foundations of the old world. Into the prince's meat halls, heavy with the smell of honey and weapon oil, came strangers from distant lands with growing frequency, Greek merchants, learned monks, hardened mercenary warriors from Byzantium. They brought with them not only silks and spices, but strange stories of a god who demands no blood, because he had shed his own blood for mankind, a god who is love, not fear. A young warrior named Ratibor, his body mapped with the scars of raids and hunts, often stood on the hill by the old shrine, staring into the sunset. Inside him, a strange emptiness was growing, one that no victory feast, no gold, no familiar prayers to his ancestors' gods could fill. He saw how the prince's retinue was changing, many of his comrades already wore beneath their chainmail not amulets of bear claw, but simple wooden crosses. The old Folkvi, the pagan priests, grumbled and prophesied the wrath of the gods, but the sky stayed silent, while Byzantium blazed with the gold of its domes, beckoning with a wisdom and sovereign grandeur unlike anything seen before. The turning point came suddenly, like a summer storm. The prince made a decision that would alter the face of the land forever. It was not merely a political gesture, it was the collision of two worlds. The day of the great baptism began with fog drifting low across the Dnieper. The enormous idols that only yesterday had inspired sacred dread now lay in the dust, and the chief idol, Perun with his golden mustache, was cast into the river to the weeping of the few elders who remained faithful to the old ways. Ratibor waded into the water alongside thousands of others. The water was cold, piercing, but when he submerged his head beneath the surface, the old fear of forest spirits and water demons vanished instantly, replaced by an extraordinary lightness. No thunder of a wrathful god rolled above the riverbank. Instead, the measured singing of a church choir rose into the air, and to Ratibor those sounds seemed like the music of the celestial spheres themselves. In place of pagan shrines, temples of pale wood and white stone began to rise on the hilltops. The transformation was difficult, old habits died slowly, and people still carried food to the graves of their ancestors and whispered charms to the forest for a long time after. But the seed of truth had already fallen into the soil. Now a person looked upward not with terror, but with hope. The blood on the altars was replaced by the quiet light of oil lamps, and the fury of battle began to be balanced by repentance and mercy. Ratibor watched as the wild steppe and the dense forest gradually became a state united by a common chalice and a common word. The Slavic soul, vast and elemental, had found its banks and its direction. The twilight of paganism was not the death of a people, it was their second birth. From the baptismal font emerged a new Rus, radiant with purity of spirit and the gold of crosses reaching toward an endless sky. This was a story of how fear became faith, and idols became icons, on which human faces glowed with an otherworldly light, promising that from this moment forward, no one would ever be alone in this immense and once terrifying world.